Hi, Meena. How are you?
Very well, Gurit. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome to have you as part of the Mind My Mind team. Ladies and gentlemen, our viewers, please welcome Miss Meena Iyer. She's a counseling psychologist, a motivational trainer, and a clinical hypnotherapist. She's been doing this for over 10 years and further super specializes in addiction counseling. She also was at one point running de-addiction centers in Gurgaon and some other parts of the country. And it's a pleasure to have her here today on this talk show. And we would like to hear a lot about her journey as to how she got into substance abuse and addiction medicine and further into psychotherapy. Meena ji, why don't you tell us, share some views and share your experience with us about your whole journey over the last so many years, over a decade that you've been doing this.
Thank you so much, Gurit. Thank you so much for the nice, generous introduction. And really happy to be here. And I think you've talked about a lot of the work I do. I also like mentioning that this was not the career I chose in my 20s. And I actually worked in advertising for close to 20 years. And I say this quite unashamedly that my personal challenges brought me to seek, this whole inward journey and find out what it's all about, right? And I think the most crucial shift, I think, for any human being to make is when they stop blaming environments and situations and people in their life, and they start looking inwards and saying, what can I do about this? What have I done so far? And how can I course correct? So that's how my journey began. And then I moved out of the corporate job started doing a lot of self-help programs. I got an opportunity to work as a motivational trainer. And then, of course, I went back to school, studied psychology, did my master's. Then I, qualified in hypnotherapy. And so all of that went, kind of together. And what was amazing was that my journey was going on. I was seeing things, I was seeing changes in myself. And I firmly believe we are all still work in progress. We keep transforming. And today it's been, close to 13, 14 years doing this, running a facility for addicts and alcoholics, consulting with other facilities that work in this area. Because substance addiction really, Gurit, is a microcosm of the human condition. All of us do something addictively. Like Eckhart Tolle says, right? The author of Power of Now. He says, if nothing, every human being is an addictive thinker. So that's one addiction we all share. We're constantly thinking. We're addicted to thinking. So, and when you look at a substance addict, that is kind of so visible, where there's a substance they're consuming. And that substance came into their life to sort of help them cope with some issue. But that activity itself became a bigger problem than the root cause that they had. So that sort of sums it up for me. Lots of work with addicts and alcoholics, even some in people who've suffered from eating disorders, and then, of course, the whole line of work that we do in therapy. In the COVID years, I must say it's been a lot more of online work because we've not been able to meet too many people face to face. So counseling and therapy works online, just like you and I are talking right now. So, yeah.
Very interesting. So you use the word hypnotherapy, and I know you're a qualified hypnotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist. A lot of people associate hypnotherapy with spirituality and alternatives of spirituality.
Yeah.
What word should I use?
Metaphysical healing,
healing, etc.
Spiritual healing, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. However, these are very, very well researched and clinical practices that have been established over a lot of experimentation. How did you get into it, and what's your view between metaphysical healing and psychotherapy? What's the difference?
Very interesting question, Gurit. Thank you for asking me that. So like you rightly said, hypnotherapy is actually the process by which a therapist has a window to look at the person who's undergoing therapy, to look at their subconscious mind. Vis-a-vis talking like this, the way we are in our conscious state, hypnotherapy is when you go into a deep meditative state and you remember experiences and you contact emotions which have been buried for very long. I don't know why, but why that should have a spiritual connotation. Why it might be is, I think, because one of the very popular processes that people do while taking the person into hypnosis is past life regression. And that has to do with maybe a religious belief that we have more than one life. Maybe it came from there. But for instance, if you look at age regression, which is like regressing a person back to a younger age, which is actually very useful and very helpful in therapy, right? And we can do it cognitively and through hypnotherapy, saying, go back to a painful memory, contact it, like feel it fully, and then heal it and come out of it. So I think there's a difference. The differentiation is between the method of reaching of therapy, which is hypnotherapy, and the actual process involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how could you explain that a bit more for the benefit of the viewers, for the benefit of a layperson?
So definitely, I want to say that hypnotherapy is not does not, for instance, even have something to do with, say, healing symbols. I'm a Reiki healer too, and for instance, healing symbols talk about powering your energy work through a healing symbol. Now that is something that you're working with. You're saying I'm getting into a very calm state, and I'm breathing in a very positive energy, and I'm communicating and working with that energy. Now that's very different from, say, hypnotherapy, which is saying, I'm going to tell you, Gurit, close your eyes, count down, visualize you're in a place like this. And all of this is going to take you into a very relaxed place where you will then be ready to do the work which we would have otherwise done talking like this. Like, tell me about the first time you were deeply embarrassed, right? And you can probably pull out some memory now, but if you go into hypnotherapy, you will probably pull out the exact memory, which might have been so painful that it's still lying buried in the subconscious or the unconscious for such a long time. Right. So hypnosis is just the method of getting you to that place. The principles of therapy are still the same, saying, what were the emotions involved? Was there fear? Was there anger? Was there guilt? Was there shame? Which is all pure conventional psychotherapy, which is saying we work with these emotions, we work with these associations, and we work at empowering ourselves on dealing with such situations. Yeah.
Excellent. I think you also mentioned in one of our earlier discussions that it's very important for the traditional psychotherapy to kind of come back, because a lot of people, I'm not deriding the energy work that people do, because that also has its benefits. But
absolutely,
when you're actually dealing with issues, I think the most scientific approach, which is well researched through your psychological interventions, is much desired. And I believe you've done a lot of in on behavioral aspects, not only in your studies but also in your practical sessions. You've dealt with hundreds of patients, helping them through their behavioral therapy. And of course, addiction, I believe, is an extension of that behavioral aspect.
Absolutely.
Heard, Meena ji, that you also do you have specially designed an inner child healing workshop. Why don't you tell us a little about that?
Sure, Gurit. So I'll answer both questions. First of all, the importance of conventional psychotherapy, the importance of talking things through, doing sessions. You see, and I also see this, and it's very worrisome where spiritual healing comes across as a sort of quick fix to people's solutions, and and from believers and practitioners alike, because for everything that exists, there's got to be people who support that structure to thrive, right? So it's incorrect to say that you can do one or two hypnotherapy sessions and your arthritis will heal, or your marriage will get fixed, or your fear of heights will go away, or any such thing, because it really doesn't happen. And which is the biggest pitfall, right? And I see people falling for that again and again. So that's where the need for conventional psychotherapy is so important, because our problems didn't get generated in a day. Like, if a person is coming into therapy at the age of 40 or 45, they've built certain behavior patterns in 45 years, okay? And whereas the root cause may have been one incident or one something they heard which was damaging or sad or whatever, but they've built on that and lived a life in consonance with that. So there's so much of course correction that's needed. That can't happen in one session, or in uh, by passing on some kind of, like I said, energy, or any such thing, actually. Because there's also the cognitive thinking aspect of it. That's how the person thinks, acts, behaves, and so it can't be changed like that. So as far as the inner child program is concerned, it's grounded, it's rooted in psychotherapy. The person who first talked about the child within is actually Carl Jung, and so amazing. Like, and he had this spontaneous experience one day, playing with his blocks, right? And he said, and he accessed a part of himself that used to play with the blocks. That when he was a little child, what it felt like, and it felt very relieving for him to reconnect with the child part. And then we all know about the Eric Bern's work and transactional analysis, which talks about each of us having an adult, a parent, and a child state, and how, right? So it's actually, this workshop brings together the work of all of these guys, of the work that's been done in transactional analysis, which originally Jung started, and then the work of psychosocial development, which was given to us by Erik Erikson. So this is mainstream psychology, and of course the techniques of, say, hypnosis are used via a guided meditation, where a person can go back, look at what might have been some of the circumstances that might have existed when they were kids. But that is used as a prompt to initiate that experience. However, it's grounded in what our developmental needs were growing up as infants, as toddlers, as preschoolers, school children, adolescents, and what was really present in our environment, and how we either responded to it by, adopting it or rebelling against it. So that's what it is, basically.
How long is this workshop for?
It's a full 3 days. So in fact, before the COVID days, I would do it as a retreat. The whole group would get to a nice resort on a Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'd run the program, check out on Monday. But then in COVID, I started working with a lot of people online. So then I have people who've done the program, but I've never met them. And now I've brought it back on the ground. So we're doing it as a workshop format. In fact, everywhere in Gurgaon, in Mumbai. So it's 9:30 to 5:30. 3 days.
You need 3 days. People need to lock in for this. And what are the typical output that you expect from this? What is the takeaway? If I were to go through a workshop on inner child healing, what would I walk away with?
Number one is, Gurit, it answers a lot of questions about ourselves, it's like that, which movie was that famous Hrithik Roshan singing, Main Aisa Kyun Hoon, It's like, that's a question all of us ask. Main aisa, yeah, aisi kyun hu? Like, how did I turn out like this?
Very true.
And you're trying to say, like, why do these kind of people make me a little edgy? Why do I lose it? And then why do I come home and regret it, saying, I could have done this, I could have done that, So I think a lot of mysteries about our personality, about the way we respond to people and situations in our lives will get clarified. Also, we have a lot of, growing up, we have a lot of confusion because we didn't have manuals, people our age, you and me, Gurut, we're not the Google generation. We couldn't go back and check, does this thing happened, and what does this mean? Uh, does this constitute abuse, for instance, right? So if my teachers, two teachers were talking, and I was in the staff room, and one of them used an expletive, which was inappropriate for me to stand there and listen to, right? Let's say two male teachers. Of course, it constitutes abuse. We don't know that right now, right? It constitutes a violation of a girl child's boundaries. Okay. So I think most of the things that we don't know, we didn't know at that age, right? So we lived with it, we rationalized it, and we said, okay, this is how the world works. Okay. Very interesting. I watched a Netflix show yesterday called something about Anatomy of a Scandal. And this person says, she's a lawyer, and she says, you know what, at that age, when she was in school, she says, there was no such thing so clearly defined as consent, right? Today, everybody's talking about consent. Everybody's talking about, inclusion and so many things.
Right.
So we didn't know what it was to, for instance, the subtle difference. I love this one. Most of us don't know the subtle difference between guilt and shame, for instance. For a long time, we grow up thinking that uncomfortable, hot feeling is guilt. It's actually shame, because we're not feeling sorry for the thing we did, but the person we were and we became. And there's a lot of pain and a lot of, I wish I weren't here. I wish, that there's something inherently flawed about me. So things like this get clarified. So when I'm feeling that funny, strange thing, I wish the ground would open up and swallow me. What am I feeling? Is it guilt or shame or just embarrassment? And why am I responding like this? So that's one. The second thing is, I think the kind of barriers people face normally, right? I have people who come in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and onwards. So saying, why can't I go after that dream job? Why can't I quit my job and do my startup like I want? Or why am I in a dysfunctional marriage and saying, it's for the sake of the kids or whatever? People will ask questions like, even in conventional therapy, like, why do I get attracted to this sort of person again and again? So what is it about me? It's not about you. It's about the experiences you had in childhood that led you to form a view of the world, and for you to respond with that world that's showing up in everything. So I think it acts
essentially
on every area.
All of those experiences end up creating the persona that you carry around. And it's
Absolutely
not breaking down that belief system or looking into that belief system as to what's bringing that trauma. If it is working well for you, very good. But if it isn't, it needs addressing. And essentially what you're saying is, in your inner child workshop, through these very well researched techniques, you actually help people decode various aspects of their personality to become better themselves and resolve certain recurring issues that happen, which purely stem from our past childhood experiences, which have not been properly addressed. You find,
our experiences and how we understood them at the mental age we were when they happened. Because a 3-year-old does not have the emotional vocabulary to understand anger. My mother was angry. He or she will just know the door shut and I was in terror. So every time she sees somebody's face going a little, so she actually rubber bands back to that moment when her mother shut the door and she felt that terror. So the incidents or the experiences happened when we didn't have an emotional vocabulary to understand what was happening. So we gave it whatever name we could, and we survived it and we moved on. And what I do, Gurrit, is that whoever does this program is sort of connected to me for good, for life. I'm available once a week for a call where everybody can join in and saying, you know what, I'm trying to live this inner child program, but this is what is coming up for me. People don't like it that, I've suddenly grown a backbone. Like, I demand things to be a particular way. I'm drawing some boundaries. So how do I take it from here? Because everybody is so used to me taking all of this and being okay with it. Like I'm everybody's helper or whatever, whatever is the kind of image that people have built for themselves. So
But then a
that
very
work is what is
beautiful thing that
ongoing.
you don't just, the workshop everything doesn't end with just the workshop ending. You do
Right.
have a continuity to that program.
Yes.
When you go back with your changed mindsets and as you're you're adjusting yourself into your new paradigm, as well as, letting people adjust to your new paradigm, you're there to handhold them through the shift.
Yes.
Very,
Absolutely.
very
Absolutely.
interesting. So, Meena-ji, thank you so much for being part of this. I think we will continue our talks at appropriate times regularly. Very nice to hear your views and share them with our viewers. Thank you. Thank you so much. Talk to you again soon. Thank you, viewers, for sharing your time with us. I hope this session is useful to all of us. Thank you. Thank you, Meena-ji.
Thank you, Gurit. Lovely to connect.